We're going to start at the lower end of the Hudson River Valley and go on up just past the New Jersey state line at Tappan, New York. I have a couple of maps here to give you an idea about it. This is the open Atlantic out here. This is New Jersey. This is an area called Sandy Hook. And Sandy Hook was fortified for many years because this is the passage here up through this area. This is called the Narrows right here. And any ship entering in New York Harbor has to go through the Narrows. This is Staten Island over here, and this is Brooklyn over here. And this interstate has the great Verrazano Narrows Bridge across it. And then you're into the bay. And we'll show maps up in here a little bit also. See, here's the this is sort of a special 3D type map. This is the Narrows coming up here. This is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Remember, Staten Island, Brooklyn. And you come up in here. Here's the Statue of Liberty. This is the East River this way. This is the Brooklyn Bridge. And this is going up the Hudson River. Now, this part of the map doesn't show you up as high as the George Washington Bridge, but it does have the Twin Towers in it. And over here will be Ellis Island, and then there's a railroad here I'm going to show you also. And this is Liberty State Park in New Jersey. So let's go from there. And these are flags at Liberty State Park in New Jersey. And then turning out and looking at the great Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Remember, Staten Island, Brooklyn, because we're looking at it from the other side. This is a statue. And notice the Statue of Liberty in the background. And this one is called Rescuing the Oppressed. World War II, Nazi camps. Rescuing the Oppressed. And it's right by all of those flags. Now this is looking from Liberty State Park, and you're going to see the back of Lady Liberty. The Statue of Liberty over there. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuge of your teeming shores. Send these, the tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And that is the statue. This brings people from Manhattan over to the Statue of Liberty. And there's the back of it. And yes, I have been in front of it, and I have that picture to prove it. I have been on the ferry around that side. Then we go on over to Ellis Island. This is Ellis Island, and I'm still on New Jersey. Now notice where the statue is. And that is Ellis Island. In another show that I do, we go inside of it and so forth. And then if you got through the Golden Door into the United States, you might be sent over to this building, which was the railroad terminal. If the people that you were going to meet first were out in Kansas, then they would put you on the right train here to take you all the way out to Kansas. That was quite an arrangement they had. But this is that very same rail station. And I always consider that a part of the process of immigrating into the United States, not just Ellis Island, but this as well. Now, across the way, there was Old Fort J. Today, you would know it as Governor's Island. Fort J, Governor's Island. And looking on up the East River, this is the Brooklyn Bridge. And here is Manhattan with the Twin Towers. And here is with the towers gone. See, the towers were right in here. And these buildings here, that color is stuff that they have on them to keep the masonry, bricks and whatever from falling down and hitting people down below. And the towers were right in here. Now, on the New York side, well, that's with the towers at night. I don't have a picture of New York down at this end of New York since the towers, at night that is, since the towers have gone. This is the Empire State Building. But what I want to call your attention to is these two. These two are the ventilation towers on the New York side for the Lincoln Tunnel. Then if and I'm looking across the river at them, and I'm on the Jersey side, and here are the ventilator tunnels on the Jersey side for the Lincoln Tunnel. And these are cruise ships lined up on the Manhattan side of the whole thing. Nice cruise ships. Now, right at Weehawken, not far from where those cruise ships are, as a matter of fact, right across on the Jersey side, at Weehawken, we are on top of the Palisades. The Palisades are those great cliffs that go up from the edge alongside of the Hudson River. And we're on top of them. This is General Alexander Hamilton bust here. And it was right below here, down in this area, down in through here. I don't know the exact spot, but down in this spot. See, this is Manhattan, and down in here were the dueling grounds where Alexander Hamilton was mortally wounded by Aaron Burr in a duel on July the 11th, 1840. Colonel Burr was Vice President of the United States, and Alexander Hamilton was mortally wounded, and he died over in New York City the next day. You could not have duels in New York, so they came over to the Jersey side to have their duels. And what I found out not too long ago was on that same dueling ground where Alexander Hamilton was killed, just 3 years before, Hamilton's son Philip, who had a bright future, had died in a duel in 1801 on the exact same dueling grounds that his father was later killed on. And looking across the dueling grounds, that's Lower Manhattan, you can see very distinctly, well, no, not too distinct, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge down there. And here's that bust of Hamilton again. Okay, now this is the East River over here. We're going to be in this river over here. This is the Hudson going up. This is the George Washington Bridge. Now that Weehawken is right along in here where we just saw Hamilton. And here's the George Washington Bridge, and we will go on up beyond that even. But here are a few views of New York City with the Brooklyn Bridge in the background. And see the towers are gone. now you can see the Empire State Building is over there. Many other buildings, I don't even recognize all of them. And then Manhattan, upriver, looking the other way. Hey, it was a pretty autumn day that I took some of these pictures. And then on up at Riverside Church, well, this is looking down now. And then at Riverside Church is still being worked on. That scaffolding has been there I don't know how long. And this is Grant's tomb. And that's on the Manhattan side of the river. Okay, we're going to, I'm standing at Fort Lee at Washington's camp, and we're talking about the Revolutionary War, and the George Washington Bridge goes right across here. I'm on the Jersey side, and that's Manhattan. And when the fall of New York came, the retreat was on the New York side, on up to White Plains and further up. And then he crossed the Hudson and came back down to Fort Lee on the New Jersey side. But the fort was just downstream, just a little bit from where the George Washington Bridge goes across today. And here is part of the fort. There's the George Washington Bridge. Here's a cannon here, and behind there is a soldier's hut, and the whole thing. And they fire things from time to time there at Fort Lee. And a deer, they're up there. They like it up there, I guess. But I've seen quite a few of them up there. Now, here's a view from the end of Washington's camp, still at Fort Lee, still up on the top of the Palisades, and here's the whole spread of Manhattan. This little town down in here is where my wife was raised, and that is Edgewater. Now, if you look very, very closely across Edgewater, that little item spiking the sky there is the Statue of Liberty, all the way down there. And here's the George Washington Bridge in autumn, which is quite nice. Now, twilight. Looking, I'm upstream from the bridge, looking under it, and then I had taken from a pier downstream from it one night. I took this picture of the George Washington Bridge with all the lights on for night. And here's the bridge tower on the Manhattan side, and note the little red lighthouse. And here's a closer one of the little red lighthouse. And here is a copy of a book, The Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge. This is a children's book by Hildegard Swift, and it's a fascinating little book. And my wife found it, my daughter rather, found it for me on the internet. That's how I happen to have it. And from my sister-in-law's house, Gertrude Hanusak, my wife's sister, up in her attic, you can see, in wintertime, you can see the little red lighthouse under the George Washington Bridge tower on the Manhattan side. And her house is in Edgewater. So we got real close to that. Now another thing you can see from New Jersey is the cloisters over in New York City. This is part of the Metropolitan Art Museum. And in this particular part of it, a lot of the money came from Rockefeller. Here is inside of it. Now, obviously, you can't see this from the river, and but we have been over to the cloisters, and I actually show you more of the gardens and the building than I do of the displays themselves. These are little gardens there. That's a real pretty one. And then I take you back over to the Jersey side for a last view of the cloisters. Now, on up north of there, where this bridge is coming in this way, is the Harlem River. So the Harlem River cuts across, so that means that this is the very northern end of Manhattan. Now I'm taking you away from the river just for a few pictures. The George Washington Cemetery is at Paramus, New Jersey, and that's where it has this famous statue of Washington praying, George Washington praying. I also took another picture out of there that I have used in several of my shows, and that is a concise statement of the Bill of Rights. I use that quite a bit. And I wanted you to see those two pictures while we were in the area. Further on up, I have house where Cornwallis stayed with a question mark. If he stayed there, it would have been November the 18th, 1776. There's a lot to say he did. Now, not all of the house was built at that time, but this part over here was. And right beyond it is this plaque. Here began the old Alpine Trail used by the British troops who first appeared in the state of New Jersey on the stormy night of November the 18th, 1776, in the unsuccessful effort of Cornwallis to intercept Washington on his way to Trenton. And here is the trail that they would have gone up to get on top of the Palisades, and then be able on more or less flat ground to follow and cut off Washington, but they did not do it. They were not successful. Here's the George Washington Bridge here, and we're going up. The Cornwallis house, incidentally, would have been right about in there. There's a little bit of flat land in a couple of places down at the Hudson River, and they have roads going down. It would have been about there. So we're going on up this way on the Hudson River. See, we will be going up through here, and there's the New Jersey state line, and here's the Tappan Zee Bridge. Let me go to the next picture, and I will show you. Here is the state line. This is the Tappan Zee Bridge, but you can see it from this overlook here, which is called the State Line Overlook. And here is the town of Tappan that we are going to. And the Hudson River is flowing this way down. We're still on the heights over in New Jersey. And we're going on the Henry Hudson Drive, which is a tiny little thing down low in the Palisades, and a waterfall. And the views out are just absolutely stunning, especially in the autumn when the leaves are coloring. Now you can see a little bit of the Tappan Zee Bridge over there. Now, this part across the Tappan Zee Bridge, this was with a long lens here. Over here is called Tarrytown, which is now called Sleepy Hollow. And the Rockefellers had a mansion there. And Washington Irving lived downstream from the bridge just a little bit, and he was the writer of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman and so forth. And then we moved on into Tappan. I had my brother with me, and he wanted to see, no, it was my son with me, and he wanted to see a maple in full coloration, and we found one. And right in Tappan is this place, the DeWint House. This is Washington's headquarters. He used this as headquarters 3 different times. And it's the George Washington Masonic Historic Site. It's owned by the Masons. And that is the house. And here's a bust of George Washington outside with some roses around it. Now, we're in a little town called Tappan, New York. And that's how they pronounce it that way. Now, inside the building, this is the South Room. And this is where Washington worked. And this is where Washington sat when he was here. And believe it or not, they even showed the floor. That was the flooring that Washington walked on when he was here. There's brick under that, but the flooring was in place when Washington was there. And then here's the North Room. Notice a beautiful Delft tile across the top of the fireplace. And a number of old places will tell you the same story. This is a bed with rope, and you're to tighten the rope so that you will sleep tight, okay? And outside, then there is the building again, the headquarters, and there's some small stone here. And I asked about these stone, and they're slave gravestones. But the bodies aren't there. The markers are there, but the burial grounds, they say, and this is their terminology, within shouting distance of the markers. And these slaves worked on farms here and to the east. And when they died, they were buried in that burial ground, but they took these few markers and put them right here on the grounds of Washington's headquarters. Now, why did I bring you up here? I wanted to tell you the story of Major John Andre. He was in the British Army, but he was captured at Tarrytown, New York, that's Sleepy Hollow, in civilian clothes with a map of the fort at West Point in his boots. He was plotting with Benedict Arnold to turn over the fort to the British. Now, there was no academy there. That didn't come along until Jefferson was president. But John Andre was then taken to Tappan, where we are, held prisoner, tried as a spy, and hanged there on October the 2nd, 1780. He was buried where he died until 1821, when his remains were taken to and buried in Westminster Abbey in London. So you saw his picture. Now here's the plaque at the 76 house. And let me show you this 76 house. This is a neat place. That's a 76 house. And this is where he was held. And inside the house, a nice fireplace. And behind that door, there's this black door right in the middle. That is where John Andre was held. Now, moving out of the 76 house, across the street and up just a little ways within walking distance, it was by the church where the trial was held. This is a different church today, but it was right in this area. And Washington was at that headquarters during the whole of the trial until John Andre was found guilty, and then Washington signed the papers for execution. So that is the sign, And then here is the church that's there today, and the graveyard's here, and the 76 house is right up in through there past the church, just a little ways. And out in the graveyard here is one stone, and this person died in 1757, and the stone is still standing. And here's the steeple of the present church there. Now, here are the plaques pointing to the place of the site of execution and burial. And down here in this little residential area, in a little circle, is a grayish, dark grayish marble monument. And here is the monument proper. Now, would you believe I projected that and actually read everything off of there, and you can actually find it on the internet, all the words. But here are the words on that monument. Here died, October the 2nd, 1780, Major John Andre of the British Army, who, entering the American lines on a secret mission to Benedict Arnold for the surrender of West Point, was taken prisoner, tried, and condemned as a spy. His death, though according to the stern code of war, moved even his enemies to pity, and both armies mourned the fate of one so young and so brave. In 1821, his remains were removed to Westminster Abbey. 100 years after his execution, this stone was placed above the spot where he lay by a citizen of the states, that's the United States, against which he fought, not to perpetuate the record of strife, but in token of those better feelings which have since united two nations, one in race, in language, and in religion, with the earnest hope that this friendly union will never be broken. Arthur Stanley, Dean of Westminster. And here is where he is buried, Westminster Abbey in London. Now we're going to a completely different subject, birds. Two important birds. The first one, whooping cranes. Whooping cranes along the Texas coast of the Gulf of Mexico and the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. It's our tallest bird. It's almost 5 feet high. It weighs about 15 pounds and has a wingspan over 7 feet. This population goes up to Wood Buffalo National Park in the Northwest Territory of Canada for starting their young. By 1941, only 11 birds, another says low point was 15 or 16, but that was all that was left in the wild. Today they're about, there's still less than 400 in the wild today, and I actually saw from the barge we were on, I saw and counted 34 whooping cranes of a bird that was only down to 11 at one time in the entire world. So I'm real happy to show you these whooping cranes. It was quite a thrill to see them, even though you didn't get all that close to them. And another bird is the bald eagle. In 1975, only 4 breeding pairs in Ohio. Today, there are more than 150 pairs, at least 10,000 breeding pairs in the lower 48 states. It has a wingspan of 7 feet, adult at least 3 foot long. It reuses its nest, which can increase to a ton. Eggs, usually 2, sometimes 3, are incubated for 35 days. Now this first picture that you're looking at, and this was through a scope that was set up by the National Park, is a little bird sitting in a nest. That little guy right there. He is an eaglet. He is the only one raised in 2008. And this is only the second eaglet in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park in about 70 years. And these eagles will not migrate. Now let me show you his parents, his or her. There they are in a tree there. And then the scope actually was set up on this one, and you can actually see the white on it. That's one of the parents of the little guy sitting in the nest. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now we're going out to Arizona to Monument Valley. Monument Valley is not in the National Park Service. It's a Navajo tribal park. It was established in 1958. And they have names for all these things. They're West Mitten and all kinds of things, but I can't keep up with them. But here is part of Monument Valley, and from Goulding's Lodge over to the monument looks like this. And Goulding's Lodge is where John Wayne and other actors used to stay when they would go out into Monument Valley for filming of some of the Western movies. You enter the valley from Utah, but most of it is in Arizona. And the lodge is in Utah also. But here's stuff. It's just fantastic. This valley was about 25 million years in its making. Nice reds. And this is right through the north window here. Now we went in there one time with a Navajo guide. This guy, whose name is Jimmy, and this hogan home is for his mother-in-law, and he helped build it for her. And so he took us, and we were in his van. He took us and stopped here and took us inside with where his mother-in-law was. That's her there. That's Susie, and the kids that you see there are Jimmy's children. And Susie is doing I don't know whether it's a tapestry or a rug. It's probably a tapestry that she is doing. Nothing is written down. She does it all from her head, and she gets the right yarn at the right time to put figures and everything else in it. It really is something. And then Jimmy got his kids to go outside and stand under moccasin arch so that we could take pictures of them. I have something I want to read at this point. It's Song of the Earth Spirit, the origin legend of the Navajos. I am the spirit within the earth. And it's rather appropriate that the children are there under an arch. I am the spirit within the earth. The feet of the earth are my feet. The legs of the earth are my legs. The bodily strength of the earth is my bodily strength. The thoughts of the earth are my thoughts. The voice of the earth is my voice. The feather of the earth is my feather. All that belongs to the earth belongs to me. All that surrounds the earth surrounds me. I am the sacred words of the earth. It is lovely indeed. It is lovely indeed. That's from the origin legend of the Navajos. Now you'll see sheep out there quite often. You'll see a Navajo with them. This one has a black dog that's helping herd those are goats, helping herd the goats. And then if you have seen petroglyphs, only one, this is probably the one you've seen. These animals, and now a petroglyph is carved into the stone. A pictograph is painted on, and it's amazing how long pictographs last since they're paint. But anyhow, they do last. Now our guide on another trip had his friend, this full-blooded Navajo, ride his pony out on this point so we could get pictures of him. And I was the only one that really had enough power with me to get the good picture. And we will see that guy again in just a moment. And these are some of the formations. We went to another hogan, and that lady actually came out and took us into her home, which we thought was nice. This is her, and look at that necklace on her, and that's her dog, and boy does she love that dog. And then she is here. She just sat down so we could see what she was working on. Again, I think it's probably a tapestry, but it could be a rug. She's got a nice cushioned place to sit, though. Really neat. And then outside, this is a wagon right in front of her place with a view out over Monument Valley, the totem and so forth. This one is considered the totem. And then these are the three sisters. And you have faith on one side, charity on the other, and little hope in between. That story is told by all kinds of Indian guides over through the West. It's not just used right at this place. Now I want to read you something that was written by a man who has since passed away, unfortunately. It's from Ghost Ways by Tony Hilliman. And Tony did die last year. The words are put in the mouth of an old Navajo, Frank Sam Nagy, and here's what he says. Memorize places. Settle your eyes on a place and learn it. Touch it with your mind. Inhale the air that moves across it. Listen to the sounds it makes. See it under the snow and when first grass is growing and as the rain falls on it. Feel it and smell it. Walk on it. Touch the stones and it will be with you forever. When you are far away, you can call it back. When you need it, it is there in your mind. Beautiful place, beautiful place. Now here is the Navajo on horse. They a lot of times call them ponies, but herding sheep in this case. And if you've never seen tumbleweed, this one in the lower right-hand corner is a good example of good tumbleweed. And it does get blown around by the wind. It just ticks off. And then the formations out here, just the sand and the views, and when you put red into it and the yucca in there, it really is something. This arch is called Eye of the Sun. Eye of the Sun. And this black is called desert varnish. That is very high in manganese, and you will see it in a number of places out in this part of the West. And then this one is called Air of the Wind. Air of the Wind. And I don't have a name for this one. It's more or less up. And then I call this one sand and a little vegetation. This plant here is the yucca, the desert yucca. And it puts up a flower spike that is beautiful, and the fruit is used, and the plant is used for all kinds of things. They even use the leaf, and they make sandals out of it. This is the one that has the sharp point on it, and you better be careful when you're handling. That point is really sharp. They also use the root of the yucca for washing their hair, which is interesting. And that little bit of water out there is very, very precious. This area here, and I don't know how extensive, but this is called the John Ford area, and he was a director when they were taking, when John Wayne was doing pictures. Now that rider is turning to go home, and his leaving also signifies the end of our Monument Valley visit, and indeed the end of the whole show.